Today on the podcast, I'm going to share an interview I did with a friend and a fellow coach on the Unblock Your BS podcast. Tara is an incredible coach in her own right and does an amazing job unpacking some powerful, important, and complex topics for men who are struggling through divorce or separation. And when she invited me on to be a guest, I was super honored, but I want to share it in my feed because I don't think my listeners have gotten a ton of my own story. And I share that in this episode. There's so much rich stuff here in this conversation for men and for women in relationship with men. And I hope this one serves you to be brave in your relationship and to move forward, to move toward love, even when it's hard. I hope you enjoy this.
Well, Dave, welcome to the Unblock Your BS podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm so good, Tara. It's good to be here with you.
Good. I'm excited. Let me ask how you got started in this work, because I don't actually know your journey.
Yeah. So I was running my own business for a long time, doing podcast production for all sorts of people, and realized that I really wasn't enjoying my life to the point where I was completely isolated, head in the computer for 10 hours a day, and it was actually destroying my relationship. I was so unhappy and unfulfilled and just kind of lost. I came up with this brilliant idea to create a podcast workshop that I could give out in public, meet people. And in doing that, I met one of my favorite human beings on the planet, a dear friend of mine who had a men's group. He invited me to his men's group. It was the first time I'd ever been in a group of men with the sole intention of helping each other grow and be better. And it blew my mind. It completely transformed my relationship in time. It led me into doing a retreat that allowed me to unblock a whole lot of my BS.
Yeah.
And from there, the people who were running all of these programs were so generous and ended up training me. I learned the internal family systems as a coaching modality instead of a therapy modality, which is incredibly powerful for me.
Yeah.
Got more coaching trainings done, and eventually opened up my business now with my wife 2 years ago.
Beautiful. Love it. Okay. Well, let's dive in. So what is it that you find that most men struggle with when it comes specifically to conflict, that they even question, is this the right partner for me? Or I don't know how to navigate this.
Yeah. So a lot of the time I'm working with guys who grew up really wanting to be respectful, really wanting to be the good guy, the nice guy, wanting to be someone she can rely on. And it became an identity for them. And what happens is when they get into a great relationship, they'll find someone who will trigger the crap out of them.
Yep.
And when they're fighting, it's so hard for this guy to actually assert exactly what it is that he needs in order to be able to show up more fully. He's feeling inadequate, incompetent, like he's not good enough. And her emotions are often completely overwhelming to him because he's dealing with his own internal critics, his own stuff about not being good enough. So when I'm dealing with kind of the intro phase of that, a lot of the work is just getting familiar with what exactly is happening in your body. Because that's the first thing we do. We want to check out of our bodies immediately, whether that means going up into our heads or just kind of disappearing completely. Neither way is going to lead us to a pain-free conflict, which is my goal for the men that I work with.
Yeah. Okay. So let's break it down real simple, because even this concept of getting in my body, a lot of men are shut off from their body. They use their logic. They say women are emotional, men are logical. What would be one practice or one thing that you help men to even just have awareness that what they're avoiding or their overwhelm is actually from the body and not the mind?
Yeah, and it's going to be different for different men. Obviously, everyone is unique. But as someone who had a very strong, and still does when he's not paying attention, tendency to go up into his head to explain away things and stay in the logic instead of the emotion because it's safer. My number one practice is always, always, always to slow down. Slowing things down is the hardest thing to do in the moment, and it's the only way to come back to yourself. And by that, by slowing down, I mean, take a good, long, deep breath, right? Always got the breath with us, as you know.
Pause.
Yep. Yeah, a little pause. A lot of guys in that moment need space, right? They can't do this in front of someone who's really engaged with them, who's really having a hard time. And even just that, like learning to create the space from your partner when she's really upset, when you're really struggling to be in your body, that's a skill in and of itself. But even just having the wherewithal to say, I don't feel like I'm here right now and I want to be.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can hear you and that's important to me. Give me 5 minutes. Let me go
Yeah.
collect myself. Let me go re-regulate. So powerful, so transformative for a lot of relationships. And it's often like the beginning. When you learn to do that, you start to discover a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
It can be intense.
Yeah, when it gives your partner context too, because the default is fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, right? Like the default body responses that we have. And when we don't communicate what we're doing, whether we just yell out and we blow up at somebody, or we retreat and we avoid, or we're just physically present but mentally elsewhere, your partner's going to make up her own stories about what she's experiencing. I just had this with a couple yesterday, and they've been married a very, very long time, and she has so much resentment because she kept believing I'm not lovable. And in her criticisms or attacks or bids for connection, it kept reinforcing his own belief that he's broken and he's not good enough. And so he would get quiet. And then that reinforced the belief that she's not lovable. When in his mind, it's like, I care so much about her opinion of me that I'm too afraid to say anything, because if she thinks differently of me, like I can't tolerate her thinking any different. And it's so interesting that they both desperately wanted, like cared about each other, but the expressions of it were different. And it's kind of that anxious avoidant attachment.
Yeah.
And so in those moments to even, I think it would have done a world of good for him to say, I need at least 30 minutes to just check myself. Like I'm feeling shut down. I can't engage with you. In those moments, I could see before they got on a call and before he started doing his healing work, where she would internalize his distance as that rejection, as opposed to, oh, it's his ability to process so he can be present. And he
Yep.
didn't have the ability to come back to her. So with the work that you do with men, what would you recommend for a man who's trying to do that, but his partner is not receptive to it, or maybe she has that more anxious attachment where she keeps pursuing and chasing, and we'll call it smothering, when he
Yeah.
is trying to take that pause to like process his own emotions, much less her emotions? What are some boundaries or ways for a man to navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the boundaries to assert is this is one of my favorite recontextualizations of boundaries, is that it's actually a loving thing.
Yeah.
It is a way to love the people you are closest to, is to have boundaries with them. Because otherwise you're not showing up as yourself. You're showing up as either the very overwhelmed and intense version of you, or the completely checked out, fawning, you name it. Any of those trauma responses are not the best version of you. And it's not the version that this person who loves you wants to be in a relationship with.
Yeah.
So learning to articulate that can be really, really powerful for a man.
Yeah.
If you're being smothered by your partner, right? Like it's really hard for them to let you go, to kind of take your space, which can come from trauma too, right? Maybe they come from a household where the person, when they were upset, would leave. And that became a really a painful thing anytime someone who they love would leave when they're upset, right? Learning to navigate your partner's traumas is inevitably part of being in relationship.
Mhm.
So being able to speak into that with love, with attention, with understanding, also a great way to start creating some boundaries there. Like, hey, I see you. I understand why this is hard for you. Here's what's happening for me, because I don't want to continue that level of um, connection with you. I don't want to connect with you in the space of both of us being completely overwhelmed and
Yeah.
heightened anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So being able to step out of what's happening, come back to the love and articulate what's actually happening in a way that allows you to take the space, the time, the whatever it is that you need in order to come back to yourself.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's how do I come back to the best version of me so that I can be loving? I can be in the loving connection we have.
Yeah, because it reinforces the shame that most men carry when they get reactive, right? They go into, I blow up or I shut down, and then I know she's sad or upset, but I don't know how to repair. And so I'm a POS, I'm a POS. Like, it just keeps reinforcing that shame. Whereas when you're talking about, like, I want to show up as the best part of myself,
Yeah.
I just don't have the skills and tools to navigate. I feel like I need to fix it because it feels urgent. And like you said, when we challenge that urgency and we take that space and that pause, it allows all the hormones that are driving all the emotions and the intensity to just peter out, but also then it kicks on your logic centers in your brain to be able to go, what's the next right step? And even recognizing and owning, you may not know the right next step. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to. And working with your partner.
Yes.
I think we often lose that we're a team. And I know when I was married, I heard this phrase, but I never really fully understood the concept of it's you and me against the problem, not you against me.
Mm-hmm.
And so much is like, at least especially the relationships that I work with clients, it's like, no, it's you versus me, as opposed to understanding we have two separate nervous systems that respond very differently.
Yeah.
And can I be curious about my partner? I teach a lot about the curiosity of your partner and what that can actually do to create that emotional safety that all of us are honestly seeking and craving.
Yeah. And that posture of, I don't need to have the answer. I just need to be willing to show up in the uncertainty with curiosity. Sometimes that is like the hardest posture for a man to take, because we want to be like, we think we're not reliable if we don't have the answers. We think,
if I can't fix it, I have no value in this.
yeah, how's she going to love me if I don't know how to fix this? If I don't know how to heal her pain, right? And oftentimes the most healing thing you can do is to go slow, get quiet, and be in it with her.
Yeah. Which means listen.
Yeah.
Which means literally nothing but listen.
With curiosity too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an important word, because you can listen and be just like putting ammo in the next argument.
Yeah, right.
When really, when you're listening with curiosity, you can discover so much about your partner, and you can kind of get past that story you told about the couple you were working with, where she had this very specific response that was completely opposite to what he was trying to say. It's a perfect example of how when we don't listen, we're going to miss the key. You're going to miss the solution. But you have to be able to sit in the uncertainty with curiosity in order to access that.
Yeah. How would you describe this concept of emotional safety for a man who's just hearing it for the first time?
First of all, I'm sorry that you're just hearing this for the first time.
Right.
Because, I mean, and it's hilarious, but it's also so sad.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, yeah, I have a hard time not getting really sad at the idea that a man has not experienced emotional safety.
Yeah.
Consciously. I mean, I'm sure there's been spaces where maybe that's been available to him in the past, but so many men walk around with armor on. And a big part of one of the programs that I offer is learning to take off that armor in the right moment. Because the armor serves you, right? The idea that the world is not emotionally safe serves you in a lot of your life, right? You don't want to be a gushy ball when you're at work.
Yeah, I call it, you want to be a warrior in a garden, not a gardener in a war.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Exactly. A warrior in a garden. Yeah. And when you're in that garden, which I'm interpreting as your relationship, right? The moment when she's reaching her hand out to you, your partner's reaching their hand out to you, being able to take off that armor to access your heart is the ultimate skill in a relationship. And it's hard, because everything from your childhood and your life has trained you to do the opposite, because that's the scariest moment. It is a scary thing to be truly witnessed and seen. Yeah. But emotional safety is having that trust.
Yeah.
That it's okay to disarm her.
Yeah, because usually when I hear, I'll get men coming like, my partner says she doesn't feel safe. I've never yelled at her. I've never hit her. And I'm like, it's emotional safety. So what's that? Yes. And I would say 10 times out of 10, whenever I ask them, well, do you feel emotionally safe in the relationship too? It's a blank stare, right? And so it's just almost like a mirror that you both don't feel emotionally safe, but also do we ever understand what emotional safety is within our own body? If we're avoiding our own emotions, if we are unhinged in our emotions, if we don't understand our emotions, we're never going to understand our partners, and we're going to interpret their responses just like we do when we're kids as must mean something about me, right? Must have everything to do about me, because as kids, we're very selfish creatures by design. We have to survive. And so we adapt to our environment with whatever is happening from mom and dad and our family dynamics as we must be the cause of it. because we don't have enough logic and we don't have this support of somebody to come in and guide me on like, that's not really you. That's a dad issue. And so we take that into our adult relationships and respond in very similar ways. And then I usually see it from like 5 years on is when we have these really embedded cycles in relationships where it's just our nervous system's in constant survival response, except instead of taking responsibility for your part in that or understanding where those beliefs about yourself came from, we now hand it off to our partner of like, hey, you're responsible for my self-worth. Don't mess it up. And what most women that I know that are in the situations of craving that emotional safety, and this is also what was going on with that couple I was working with, was what women are craving is for you taking off that armor, is for you being vulnerable and your messy, unhinged self, not in a destructive, abusive way, but in the vulnerable way. Because vulnerability is what leads to connection. You cannot have connection without vulnerability, which we can do very early on in relationship when the stakes are low. But when we've built a life with someone and we've got our whole future hinged on them, we've got kids and finances and all this mesh, now all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to risk rocking the boat by being vulnerable and saying what hurts me or saying ways in which you've created hurt and pain in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because your relationship, this is what I love about working in relationships, is it's inevitably going to push you to the brink of your capacity, no matter what. And when your capacity does not contain the ability to create safety for the people who you love, and you're hinging your worth on your ability to create safety for the people you love, isn't that a fun play?
Yeah.
You know?
Nobody ever gave you a roadmap to do that in high school? Whoopsies.
Right. We don't teach these things.
Yeah.
But you're gonna face it. In a great relationship, you're gonna face it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I would say that's by design, like that's the purpose. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think the purpose of relationships or marriages is in the grand scheme of life?
Yeah, very much in the same wavelength. I believe they're here to evolve us.
Yeah.
Believe they're here to make us the person we long to be,
Yeah.
the person we don't necessarily believe we can be right now.
Yeah. To
But
bring out the best version of ourselves.
100%.
But you can't do that if everything's happy-go-lucky all the time, or if you've based your relationship on the sole purpose is to make me happy in life. It's a very self-serving perspective of, if I'm not happy, well, then this has no purpose. And that's not to say that like staying miserable for decades is the answer. I don't hear the antithesis of that, but it's looking at how can I take this pain and use it to learn something about myself. And this is where I struggle a lot, especially because I also work with men. And so I'm not getting the females'
Mm.
experience of that, but also are we both looking at ourselves? Because I get a lot of men of like, the woman is pointing at him. He's the problem. I'm not going to do any work. You need to go work on yourselves. And they start to, because they've joined my programs, right?
Mm.
And they start to shift and evolve out of the version that they used to be, but she can't see it. And it's not good enough. And she's not noticing any progress. And so part of it is she learning also to look for evidence of progress, or is she looking for threat assessment of old patterns not changing? Because you will find all the evidence that you seek, but if you're also not working on how you showed up and what you co-created in this dynamic, we have a big disconnect there.
I mean, that's the scariest thing about evolving. I'll use the word evolving, is that your world changes.
Yeah.
And that includes attachments. It includes relationships. And if you don't have a mutual agreement, which I think every relationship should have, the agreement that we're here to support each other in growth.
Yep.
And to check in about that, you're going to lose people sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. I think that is often the biggest deterrent for a lot of guys to get into the work of growing in their relationship, because they're scared they're going to lose someone they love. And I get that. I don't want to be dating right now. It's
hard. Unpleasant.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I
Thanks, way to rub it in.
I'm sorry.
God, that sounds awful. I would never. No,
well, no, but like it has changed, and it's worth a conversation for sure. Maybe a different conversation, but I understand the attachment of like, I love this person so much. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. I feel completely trapped sometimes. I'm mostly unhappy and miserable, but like the alternative sounds worse.
Yeah.
And it's a really great way to suffer deeply, because I think it will only continue to worsen. It's not going to stay at like this baseline. This is kind of intolerable. Like, no, fire spreads. And if you do not do your work to contain that, to harness it, to channel it. Like relationships need fire. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah. And that is something I often say to men that are working on marriages and relationships, that on the healing journey, I said at some point you just won't have the tolerance for the old cycles, and you'll be able to handle and navigate better. But if she keeps continuing to draw you back into the old cycles, and she's not also doing her own growth and her own processing and her own making new choices to get new results or new outcomes, in some ways, you almost kill off the version that she loved and benefited from, and she has to relearn this new version of you. But if she's not committed to doing that, there's really not much you can do about that other than just continue to show up as a way that you respect and you're proud of. I mean, really, at the end of the day, a lot of what, and I'm sure you do this too, but a lot of what we teach is having a strong sense of self-worth, because these survival responses are rooted in insecurity and fear, and that's not a healthy way to connect with people and love people. And so you self-abandon in a lot of that, or you do things that are out of character for you that you're not proud of, and that breeds the shame. So we start with repairing your relationship with yourself. And if you have a partner that has benefited, whether it's controlling or manipulation or the hormonal mix that she got from going into conflict with you consistently because her nervous system is wired for chaos, and you grow and evolve out of that, yeah, you've changed the dynamic. And so again, that growth, when we're growth oriented, when we're both committed to growth, that can be a beautiful connection point and create new nuance and a new honeymoon phase and a new exploration and better communication. But if you have one person who's growing and the other who's staying the same, then you have a lot of distance between the two of you.
100%. And, you know, I'm completely in agreement. You need to do the work on yourself when you're in a relationship. That is a non-negotiable. And I have a client who spent a full year just totally unearthing the stuff, going through it, shedding. And he came out the other side so grounded, so ready to be like the father to his children in a way that it was exactly what he wanted from the self-work. But his relationship didn't change. But his wife was so committed to the idea that we do the work on our own. And she didn't want to get help with him. She didn't want to go to therapy. She didn't want to get like couples coaching with him. And that to me was the sign that he needed to move on. And he eventually got there himself, because nothing was changing. Because there's a lot of work to do on your own. There will continue to be a lot of work to do on your own. I don't think this work ends. But at a certain point, you do need to do the work together. You do need to learn how to be in these new body, even just one new body in relationship with someone else. And I mean, doing the work as a couple too, oftentimes also a non-negotiable.
Yeah. Because I know in my marriage, so we were married for 10 years, we were together for 13. I needed to take kind of the victim mindset to get out of it. There was a lot of reasons I very well could justify that, but it wasn't until after I got out of it and got some space that I also was self-reflecting on me. Now, I'd been in therapy for a long time, and he struggled and resisted going to it. We did a little couples work, but ultimately kind of my line in the sand was, you need to go get help, or I can't keep being this person for you. And when I look back and kind of self-reflected, because I didn't want to recreate that same pattern with someone new, I looked at how much I enabled my own mistreatment, the ways in which I didn't have boundaries, the ways in which he would be upset and say an attack towards me, and I would go, okay, let me change who I am. And I shifted, and I had no idea who I was getting out of that marriage, because it was all performance. And it was really, I think that's not talked enough about how even enabling can be massively destructive to relationships, even though it's more altruistic and it sounds good, of like, I'll do anything for you, and I would give you the world, I would give up everything. And it's like, but you've lost yourself in that. And then it's all a performance, again, trying to earn love, rather than we are both co-creating a life together and we're both growing. And so it really caused me to confront, what is the purpose of a relationship? When I met my ex-husband at 24, I think I knew what a marriage was. Do you think I knew what a relationship was? Like, no. I was like, oh, it's just what you check the box in. And to some extent, I say this somewhat joking, but probably seriously, that I wanted a marriage more than I wanted the relationship that we had. And after 10 years of marriage, that's what I had, a marriage, but no relationship, because I didn't understand, the value of a relationship and what a relationship could be when you're committed to growth. For me, it was just like, oh, we have the family, we have the happiness. And ultimately, that put too much pressure on both of us when life lifed, and we
Yeah.
had a lot of trauma that went on in our relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this whole notion that relationships are supposed to make you happy. Like, are you happy is what people sometimes will ask,
Yeah.
right? Are you
I'm
guys
so happily
happy?
married, right?
Like, sometimes I'm happy. Sometimes I want to rip my hair out, or what's left of my hair. Um, but that piece about like needing, needing your partner to do work that they refuse to do is such a hard place to be in.
Mhm.
And so many people just enable the crap out of that,
Yeah.
right? I'm guilty of this too. My wife is guilty of this too, right? Like you can come back from it, but it does take being willing to have boundaries. It takes being willing to grow that part of you that is terrified of losing the person you're with, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the irony of a great relationship is you have to be willing to risk it in order for it to evolve with you.
Yeah. Well, when men say, "I would do anything for my wife," I'm like,
Mhm.
"Will you get support? Will you
Mm,
will you cry in front of her? Will you be vulnerable in front of her?
yeah,
Will you tell her what hurts you that she says or that she does?"
yeah.
It's like, "Oh, whoa, well, hold on."
Well, and the beautiful thing too is like if you get underneath that notion, like I'd do anything for you, there's this like really beautiful service oriented
Mhm.
thing that I think is like really innate in a lot of guys. At least
Yeah.
every man I've worked with has this just like deep desire to serve,
Yeah.
to be of value and contributing. But if it's coming from a place of a lack of self awareness, if it's coming from a need to prove yourself, as opposed to just like a genuine love, you're going to fail. It's going to create problems for you.
Yeah.
But on the other side of doing the work, on the other side of getting the help you need and asserting your boundaries and being able to show up more authentically to your relationship, you can say something like, I would do anything for you and mean it because you're speaking to someone who respects you, who honors your boundaries, who loves you in that way because you've learned to do that for yourself, right? That's the beauty is like if you can speak to that, if you can understand that version of you that just wants to be valuable, just wants to
Yeah.
help, that can be channeled in a beautiful way and you can have that feeling you want. You just have to deal with all the crap in between.
All the feely stuff.
Yeah, all the feely stuff. Exactly.
How do you navigate, because it's kind of bringing up for me that men will do anything for their partner, but oftentimes that comes in a form of self-abandonment and this kind of sacrificial love, and the man goes down with the ship, and a man is of his word. How do you navigate this concept of sacrifice in relationships? And is there a healthy version of it versus unhealthy, or is it an antiquated concept that really doesn't serve more modern day relationships?
Hmm. You're right on the edge of my favorite exploration area. So that's cool.
Good. Let's dive in.
So my podcast is called Reclaiming the Gentleman,
Mhm.
right? And I think this whole notion of a gentleman
Mhm.
uh, has a lot of antiquated bullshit
Yeah.
associated with it. And with a lot of social evolution and a lot of beautiful change that, transformed the gentleman's world into kind of a more open and accessible world for everyone. We did get rid of some important things. We got rid of the idea that a man should understand how to take care of people who are unable to protect themselves.
Mhm.
That a man should channel his desire to be of service in a way that's productive to everyone, including himself, right? And I think the work that we're all being called to collectively has a lot to do with reclaiming what was valuable in that old way and then creating what a gentle man could be, right?
Yeah.
I love a lot of polarity coaches out there, and I really dislike a lot of polarity coaches out there because it's very
Oh, the
hard.
polarity and the polarity?
Yeah, the polarity and the polarity. Isn't that a
It's
beautiful
very
thing?
meta.
Yeah. But when you get it right, and it's hard, and I get that on the surface, it's difficult to navigate that world on your own. But when it's right, the idea of opening the door for a woman has nothing to do with her being incapable of opening that door.
Yeah.
And everything to do with you just want to love her that way, right? And from the outside, that can look toxic and horrible. But if you've done the work, if it's not coming from a place of needing to prove, of deep hurt and unprocessed trauma, if it's coming from self-awareness, which you talk a lot about, that can create a lot of really sweet and productive love, I'll even say,
Yeah.
in a relationship. If you can master that. And I think that's a worthy pursuit.
Yeah. Well, and even just we'll stick with the concept of the door opening. It's almost looking for ways in which to make a woman's life easier. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a lot of effort. It's not that we can't open the door, but when somebody else can do it for us, especially the more modern day woman, is like we carry the mental load and we carry the emotional load and we now have to work and we now, all these different responsibilities we take on, and then we add social media and doom scrolling on top of that. It's like one small way and a series of these small gestures just to make things a little bit easier. And I think oftentimes we as women take that for granted. Staring at the other side, I've been single for quite some time. It's great when somebody opens my door. I don't care who it is. Like when my son, my 11-year-old, opens the door for me, and teaching him to do that, of like just a kind thing. Not that he's trying to, like you said, prove it. I call it performance, right? That,
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
what a man does. But it's not when I say performance, I mean we're doing it for a specific expectation or outcome. I open the door and she, gives me a hug or kiss, or I get the attaboy, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'm a man who opens a door for a woman. It is a value I have, and I'm choosing that, whether she appreciates it or not. And I think that's where we start to get out of the dynamics of tit for tat, or the goalpost keeps moving, is what I hear, is that you're doing it because it's who you choose to be, not because you think it'll earn you a gold star or her appreciation, her love, or adoration. And that for a woman is a lot more safe emotionally for us to settle into when we know you're operating from your own value system, and that whether we have an off day, whether we have a hormonal mood or a fluctuation, that you're unchanging how you view yourself and how you're going to show up. That's a place that we can let our guard down, that we can be our soft, flowy, flirty, feminine, sexy self. But when it is performance based, our nervous systems pick up on that. It feels like a threat because you're unpredictable. Because one day I can say thank you for opening the door. The next day I don't say that, but I've got a million things going on in my head, or I'm waking up and I'm angry at the world and I don't know why. And then you start to internalize that as, I don't appreciate the things that you do. And you take that as a chip on your shoulder. And then you're looking for evidence in all the ways I didn't appreciate you for the one thing, but then we miss on the other. So it just kind of creates this spiral. Whereas if a man, and quite frankly a woman, but when a man operates from his own set of values, regardless of what anybody has to say or do about it, that's where the consistency shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that steadiness it's visceral, it's energetic. It's not something that gets affirmed completely,
Yeah.
because it's something you just feel. And this is why it's so important that we check into our bodies, because if you don't understand that concept, if you don't buy into that concept, relationships are going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Because she's feeling it. She's waiting for it. She's looking for it. She's testing for it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, if you don't understand that concept, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. When I love this
Possible.
concept of a woman as a mirror, I think both partners are a mirror. But if you look at how, a woman you buy a house and she makes it a home, right? A woman multiplies what she gets. And so if you look at her responses, now that's not to discredit women's part in this and their own nervous system regulation and their own self-awareness work and their own trauma work.
Yep.
Right? But when we look at, in a container of safety, a woman can thrive. She can make everything feel safe, but she needs that safety first. And this concept of a man being a leader, I very much so resonate with. Call me old-fashioned, anti-feminist, whatever. But it really is the man taking the first step. My belief in that, and being a woman, is because our hormones play a very big part in our emotional state, and that changes roughly, give or takes, every 7 days, just for the entirety of our adult life for the most part. And then we have seasons with postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause, where we wake up and we don't know why we feel how we feel. So having a man that's consistent as the waves of our emotion are just driving our internal experience all over the place, that's what can help her feel safe, that that even if I start to spout off or I'm really angry that day, that there's a man who's like, ooh, whoa, you're coming in hot. Like that, we're not going to talk to each other this way. How can I support you right now? And not internalize it as like, oh, here I go again. She's just mouthing off. She keeps nagging me. And it's like, well, that's just reinforcing. And she's going to amplify whatever it is that you're giving her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And, so many guys get so resentful about this piece of it. Like, oh, I have to be so steady. She's always going off and whatever emotion is the flavor of the day. And it's like, yeah, that's why you love her.
Right. That's what makes us appealing and also crazy.
Yeah, it's why you're drawn to her, is that she's so connected to herself and who she is and how she's feeling. Like, that's part of your compass, is that she is so connected. She can help you navigate in that way.
Yeah.
But you have to lead that. You have to create the space for her to do that with safety, right? And this is, the other core ingredient that I bring to my men's work is that you have to have a men's group. I think every man in a relationship needs to have a group of men where he can go and do that and offload that stuff, because it is impossible to be steady all the time.
Yeah.
No one can do that. And I think that's what so many guys miss when they hear that, like, there's this role they have to play of holding the storm, being the rock in the storm, letting the waves crash against them. It's like, yeah, and then dump that out somewhere else, man. Like,
they internalize it and repress it. And I'm like, that's not the answer either.
Right. Hello, resentment.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that concept, because I do believe that healing and growth happens in community and support. I mean, we just experienced that last week. We're in a similar coaching program. And just even the breathwork session, right? 170 people.
Session. I need to
I don't think I've heard. Did you share your experience of it? I don't think I did.
I wanted to, but I didn't get to. And I guess for context, because people don't know this, Tara led a group of 170 big
feelers.
Big people through the most beautiful 60-minute breathwork session I've ever experienced. And I've done a lot of breathwork. Like, I love breathwork.
Yeah.
I live in San Diego, where we love breathwork here. It's like a big deal. And the way you set up the container for, like, I don't know how long it was, but it was just all of the support you needed to go as deep as you could was there.
Yeah.
And then the breathwork itself just immediately, like, I always have this experience of breathwork where I'm sure I'm going to die, which I don't know.
You're really selling it, Dave.
Yeah, I'm really selling it here. But
you get right to the edge of death, and then I'll bring you right back.
Well, so I had, we get this first intense session, and I'm like, okay, wow, so much energy here. I think I'm going to die. We do this beautiful hold, and so much got released, right? And as the breathwork unfolded, as you did more of those, what I realized was I have spent so much time trying to create safety for everybody. Don't rock the boat. Don't push too far in for people. Don't push them over their edge.
Yeah.
To the point where I think I've disempowered a lot of the work that I'm here to give.
Yeah.
And so sitting there at the edge of my limits and feeling how strong the container you set was held, I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta push those edges. Yes, to a safe extent, and you create the safety.
Yeah. Well, recognizing that it's also your choice where your edge is. Our mutual coach, James, often talks about this box, right? That we're in a box. That's our comfort zone. And everything you want is outside the box. And so when you're talking about getting to your edge, to me, that's like the edge of your comfort zone. That's the edge of your box. And what you want is on the other side of it. And you get to decide at any point to step outside of that. Now, what was beautiful about, because that breath work took a life of its own. The max I'd ever done, in full disclosure, was 10 people in person. So this was like whoosh, and there was a lot of support. There was a lot of other breathwork facilitators helping out, but it took a life on its own, because there were times when I had, I'd rehearsed the script and the music and all that. So I knew when the crescendos were in the music, and y'all started taking off before that. I was like, yes, we're just going down this path. And it was, it was loud. It was, people were laughing at points. Like, it was just such a magical experience. But a lot of that was just, like you said, I created the container, but the energy itself and the room, people gave themselves permission to go deeper because other people were also going deeper. So to your point of like the men's group and that support system, when we have this safety almost to normalize getting uncomfortable, sharing vulnerably. That's what I love, specifically in my men's program. When I'm talking to guys about coming in, I'm like, first time you're coming in, you'll introduce yourself, you share where you're from and one thing you want to learn, but then you're just going to observe how this works, because it's not like anything you've ever experienced for most men. The level that we get vulnerable, deep, real quick, like in these sessions, it normalizes it so that there is a place to process that out, that you don't have to put that on your partner. And that's the same for women too, is that most women, either they have support systems that are just an echo chamber. So if you say one slightly negative thing about your partner, now that stays in their head and you don't ever share the repair and all that. So that becomes an echo chamber. So every time, why are you with such a narcissist? Blah, 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 blah. And that was one thing with the couple yesterday, is that she has no support system. And I said, you need self-aware women in your life who are just going to allow you to share your hurts, but without making you wrong or without making you right, that just allow you to share. So it's not always on him, because she was like starved for connection, because he was learning skills and tools to be able to tolerate and have capacity for her intense emotions without going into his spiral. And it's also not fair for her to just like stuff it and like repress it and then explode. And so, yeah, I think to some extent, when we look at how much community and support do I have in navigating these things I want to learn so that I can feel safe in that, I think things like AA, right? And like rehab places, that's the big focus, is that we're going together on a shared mission to learn new skills and tools that we were never taught, or to challenge these identities and beliefs. That when you're in isolation, yeah, you're going to default back to whatever feels safest, which is usually not a healthy approach.
Yeah. Or numbing out to it.
Yeah.
Right. But just, I can't handle it all, because none of us can on our own. We're not built that way.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. We're built for community. Beautiful.
100%. Yeah.
Any other words of wisdoms or tips for if men are interested, or at least they've got their ears open to doing the work to improve their relationship and their connection with their partner? Where would be like a good starting point if they're new to this work?
I'll make this very easy.
Bite-sized. Baby
Bite-sized.
steps. Baby bird 'em.
Maybe it won't be baby bird. You decide. Begin with, again, slowing down, but also just doing whatever you can to lovingly witness what happens inside of you.
Yeah.
To just say, I see you thought, I see you anger, I see you resentment, I see you grief, and allow it to be here. Welcome it into your body.
Yeah.
You're welcome. It's allowed. It's okay for you to be here right now. And
be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, be gentle with yourself, right? I mean, there's so much power in gentleness that we have completely missed for so long, trying to be strong, trying to be good enough, right? That when you practice that gentleness of like, anything that's here is allowed, and it's okay that it's here, just that alone can allow the thing to move right through you.
Yeah.
And let you show up so much better, so much stronger really quickly.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know how bite-sized that is, but
I mean, sounds good, but also in theory, it's starting with that internal self-talk. How kind and gentle am I with myself? A lot of men are taught, well, they just kind of mimic the voices that they heard growing up. Shame is a very poor motivator, but it is often used very frequently with men specifically, of if you believe you're not good enough, that'll get you to move into action. Or essentially what it does is it makes you more controllable. The more shame you carry, the more easily manipulated you are. And when you start to soften and you're kind to yourself, and you can give yourself that loving connection that you're also seeking from your partner, of like, gosh, I wish she would just respect me, or I wish that she would just be empathetic to what I'm going through, or ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, how much are you doing that for yourself?
right.
So it's starting with that. Can I shift the voice in my head to just soften it a little bit? You don't have to get rid of it completely, but that's like, yeah, that first step is, why are we so hard on ourselves?
Yeah. Another good example of how relationships are mirrors, right?
Yeah.
What you're receiving from her that feels so painful usually starts in your own head toward yourself.
She's the mirror. Yep.
She's the mirror. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentle Man, which was a re-air of an interview I did for a show called Unblock Your BS. You can find Tara and all of her materials by searching Unblock Your BS in your podcast app and on social media as well. She posts amazing stuff there. She's a great follow. And yes, an incredible breathwork facilitator as well, if you ever get the chance. Thank you to Tara for this awesome interview, and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love to hear about it. If you want to learn more about coaching with me, you can find out more on my website, davelashansky.com, or get in touch with me on Instagram at Dave_Lashansky. Wherever this finds you, wishing you a beautiful day or night. I'll be back in a week.